history teacher once told me that after the invention of writing, human memory got worse. Now, this may sound kind of obvious, but it wasn't so much the understandable decline of memory as a skill, it was the worry of what that would mean. In Plato's Phaedrus, Socrates tells the story of the Egyptian god Thoth inventing writing. However, King Thamus was worried that writing would not actually improve memory, but instead create forgetfulness in the learner's soul, because they were now relying on external marks instead of internal recall. He claimed that this is rather a recipe for reminding, not for memory, and that people will no longer possess true wisdom, but only the appearance of wisdom. And this is something that has trickled into our human existence for pretty much all of it. And if you're wondering what I'm doing, well, I decided to do a vintage wet set today with my foam rollers, because I wanted to do something methodical whilst talking to you today, and something that's not necessarily convenient. Because let's face it, I could easily do this with a set of curling tongs, or pop over to the hairdresser and pay someone else to do it for me. But I didn't want to do that, especially for today's topic, as we talk about the heralded convenience and the way that it's infiltrated our everyday lives. And more importantly, the fact that we don't do anything anymore. The very point of convenience was to give humans back more time. I mean, if we cycle back to something as simple as doing your washing, this used to be a time-consuming and arduous task, equipped with a dolly tub and stick, or bruising your knees as you scrubbed ferociously against the washboard. Then came the invention of the washing machine, with early mechanical washers showing up as early as the mid-18th century as hand-crank devices using paddles or drums. Electric washing machines emerged in the early 20th century, like the Hurley Machine Company with the Thor washer in 1908, and by the mid-20th century, washing machines were becoming a staple of many middle-class households. All of a sudden, the domestic housewife's time was freed up, and over the years, the devotion of time to household chores has decreased, with many pondering the necessity of certain tasks, like sweeping the floor when you just know that it's going to be covered with spilled cereal the very next day. With the introduction of household appliances and less rigid working hours, women started to explore the labour market, and for those that stayed at home, they were introduced to a new concept: leisure time. Something as simple as the washing machine was starting to be seen as almost a form of resistance, as Eileen Capit, I hope I'm saying that correctly, a children's book author in 1952 shared, highlighting the challenges of motherhood and emphasising the merits of neglecting housework and achieving a messy home, advocating for more personal time over spotless domesticity. If you saw my recent video on why clutter isn't bad, we like to call that muddled glory. I swear, I think my hair is getting far too long for this, but I'll be damned if I spend money on a haircut. Washing machines now have a very sleek design, with only a small porthole window giving any indication about what's truly going on in there. I mean, we've all asked ourselves at least once, where do our socks actually go? And this concept of time-saving machines having an elegant shell is something that we've seen since the days of the early photocopier in 1929, when designer Raymond Lowery decided to cover it and ensure that all the inner workings were now hidden. Design was no longer about understanding. It was about making sure that you didn't have to, because the less we think, the easier it is to sell to us and get us to use a product consistently. And nowadays, that's all we see. With the smoothness of Apple products and easy-to-use interfaces, advertisers are no longer trying to make products look desirable, but effortless. No longer a conscious choice, but an impulse. Manufacturers are preying on our modern-day need for instant dopamine, with businesses targeting and exploiting the limbic system of our old noggin, the part associated with emotion, pleasure, motivation, and reward. And anthropologist Natasha Dow-Schull actually coined this limbic capitalism, suggesting that modern capitalism has shifted from meeting basic needs, food, shelter, clothing, to engineering desire, habit, and addiction. Products and services are no longer designed to simply satisfy us, but to hook us in emotionally, neurologically, central to reward and craving and reinforcement learning. We're basically the modern day equivalent to Pavlov's dogs, salivating when they hear a bell. Except our bell happens to be social media, ultra-processed food, online shopping, and fast fashion and subscriptions. So many subscriptions. But if we look back, objects didn't used to beg for our attention. Instead, they waited to be used. And sure, there were certain design elements that would guide you in their use, like the curve of my hairbrush handle, but they were designed to function only when needed. Sorry, I don't think any of you deserve to be subjected to what's going on in my hairbrush right now. You need a clean. And this has actually damaged our relationship with objects because there's no longer any reciprocity, like wearing in a pair of old boots until they become comfortable, or wrestling with an old car to make it run better, or having a favourite pan to cook with. Using objects in this way helped us to understand their quirks, limits and strengths, and in turn, understand our own. I hate that one. I'm absolutely redoing that. Today, however, we are often bound by social systems with little choice but to use them. For example, it's incredibly hard to repair an iPhone without compromising the product, and a lot of modern cars need to be fixed by the original manufacturer or at least taken to a garage. And this takes away our independence and agency to fix something ourselves, leaving us de-skilled, more likely to dispose of rather than replace, and with convenient design that often feels kind of lonely. And look, I'm not here trying to advocate that you should start getting out there and doing your washing by hand or replacing your laptop with a typewriter. But I do believe that embracing a slightly more analog lifestyle can deeply connect you with what it is that you're actually doing.
I also acknowledge that the people who only use inferior analog products just because they have soul can be kind of insufferable.
Okay, man. Chill. I was not ready to be called out today. I'm just saying, there's no friction anymore. There's no pushback. And so naturally, there is less respect for the object itself. But a frictionless experience is better, right? Well, the Dutch journalist Wouter van Noort highlights an illusion of happiness that comes with new technologies and a frictionless experience. Like the film WALL-E.
Over here.
Let's be real, that film hit us on a deeper level than any of us expected. He suggests that a life void of friction does not necessarily lead to happiness, and that the pursuit of a frictionless existence could leave us longing for a simpler, more fulfilling life, rich with challenges and engagement. As Frederick Douglass once said, without friction, no polish. Or going even further back, Seneca, philosopher of ancient Rome, similarly expressed, a gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials. In his book, Death by Comfort, How Modern Life is Killing Us and What We Can Do About It, Paul Taylor, wait, actually I need to read this because he's got like so many achievements. British Royal Navy aircrew officer, an exercise physiologist, nutritionist and neuroscientist, argues that this is affecting our bodies as well. Evolved for physical challenge and environmental variation, our bodies are not equipped for modern, sedentary, climate-controlled and digitally dominated existence. And this mismatch is driving a cascade of health problems. Ta-da! Taylor's message is that real health and resilience does not come from maximum comfort. They arise from embracing controlled discomfort. And he gives some examples: integrating movement, natural foods, stressors like cold and heat, emotional resilience techniques, quality rest, and genuine connection. Apparently, if we master these, then we can align our modern life with our ancient biology and truly thrive. But perhaps these drawbacks are outweighed by the benefits, because what is the main benefit of convenience supposed to be? Time. And on that note, it is time to go and get my headscarf. I'm not sure which one will go with my house dress, which, by the way, has pockets, I'll have you know. I think I'm going to go for this one. Okay, the colours aren't exactly the same, But there is yellow tones and orange tones and blue in this, so yeah, we'll go for that one. Dreaming of having more time for leisure and pleasure isn't a new concept by any means. For example, in the Middle Ages, with its harsh winters, famine, disease, many people longed to escape the struggles of their daily life. So much so that this gave way to a myth of a utopia, I can't see you at all, called cocaine. Now, this was a fantastical land devoid of labour, where food and wine was in abundance and pleasure was paramount. Cocaine emerged as a means to cope with the harsh realities of medieval life, and humour and daydreaming became outlets for those suffering with the instability of their own existence. And not much has changed. Although our lives may not be as physically harsh or dangerous, we are still often seeking an escape from our constantly rushed, perpetually tired existence. But with the plethora of modern conveniences, we should feel like we have more time, right? The issue is, our perception of time has warped. It's not that life today is actually faster than it ever used to be. It's that industrialisation and technological advancement of the late 20th century has significantly accelerated the pace of it. And so now it just feels more chaotic. Philosopher and writer Alvin Toffler was considering this concept in 1970 for his book Future Shock, describing how technology was beginning to push society toward a constant state of urgency and fragmentation, a sharp contrast from mid-century life. Future shock is the disorientation and stress individuals and societies experience when subjected to too much change in too short a period of time. Well, Mr. Toffler, you were very much on the money, and I, for one, am living proof of it. Technological advancement has gotten so fast in recent years that we've all got whiplash. I mean, let's just take the infinite scroll as one example. Our brains are wired to complete a task, or at least to give our tasks structure, to reach the end of the feed or the end of the page and then think, okay, that's enough for tonight. But with a never-ending stream of content, how on earth are we ever meant to know when to stop? Vuta, the guy who talked about Wall-E, states that our smartphones consume the time that should be saved by their conveniences. And instead of providing ease, technology often leads us to unpaid work for big tech companies. And as my colleague Miriam once said, remember, if it's free, then you're the product. The rise of various products aimed at capturing our attention has led to the emergence of attention economy, where companies prioritise sales and engagement over our well-being. And in a world where we anticipate more free time, I suppose the pressing question is, how do we utilise it? I think when researching this video, I started to realise why I'm so particular about how I want my home to look and feel and what kind of things I want to be able to do in my home in the future and now. So when me and Jack are discussing the little choices and decisions that we might have to make, like do we keep the cast iron Aga, I want to say yes, I want to keep the cast iron Aga, not because it's convenient, not because it's particularly efficient even, but because I want to be able to have the choice to get it going if I want to. I want to put coal on that fire and cook on that stove just for the sheer joy of doing it. And also to say that I know how to do that, because I think that's kind of cool to celebrate how far we've come and the beauty of these historical items. And yeah, okay, me and Jack do get into loggerheads about these choices more often than not, but hopefully we will find a happy medium where I can embrace my love of the art of doing while still having convenience when we feel that we need it, and more importantly, when it actually benefits us. By the way, there were literally so many inspirations for this particular video through videos I watched and articles I read that it would be too long to mention them all in this video. We'd literally be here forever. And so I've tagged them all in the description below. Humans like narrative. We like natural rhythms. But with social media and smartphones and streaming having no natural breaks, we're just left tied into a constant communication and consumption. In fact, with most modern day services and products, from Uber Eats to Temu, convenience is the only benefit because there's no narrative, there's no context, we don't have a personal connection with them, we don't see how something is being made, and so it's much harder to feel personally invested in it. Plus, these addictive amenities and social media offering validation as a reward are risking our empathy, our curiosity in trying new things, our playfulness, and our ability to embrace boredom. In the book The Lost Art of Doing Nothing, How the Dutch Unwind with Nixon by Marcia Willems, so many names I'm struggling to pronounce today, she says that this overwhelming stimulation leads to a struggle to tolerate the monotony of daily life. And in our rush to avoid boredom, we miss a deeper perception of the world. Nixon, or doing nothing, is portrayed as a practice that connects us with the pure being and essence of life, without the pressure to achieve or produce. It serves as a reminder that the mundane can hold profound beauty and significance, which is something I wholeheartedly believe in. But instead, we are experiencing a somewhat arbitrary and passive experience. And Mr. Toffler is very much being proved right again with the unnerving speed at which artificial intelligence is rising, which is something my colleague Miriam also commented on.
It's also a striving for things to be easy. And I think that is driven by technology in our world. You know, every single thing that is invented now is for the purposes of making jobs quicker, easier, giving the human more time. And I'm all for that. You know, I don't want to be out there with a washboard doing all of my linens on a washboard.
Yeah.
I was a big fan when they invented the automatic washing machine. I think that was a great invention. Great.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They'll get a sticker for that one.
Yeah.
But I don't know where we draw the line, because the whole point about releasing human time, because we've got these gadgets now that do things for us, I thought was so that we could connect with people, not so that we could just spend our time doing nothing, because otherwise what are we doing? And so I do worry about that, and I suppose one of the things that I genuinely do worry about is the the growing use of artificial intelligence and how that is going to change everything all over again. And I don't know where we draw the line of deciding as an individual what is worth my time doing and what is creative and purposeful and playful and makes me who I am, and what am I willing to give over to technology, to an artificial intelligence, and de-skill myself, I suppose. You know, that is part and parcel. The cost, the value of it is that we haven't got to do that job, but the cost of it is that we are then de-skilled. That could we do that job if we wanted to? That's you're going to have to constantly weigh that up, aren't you?
And no, tech companies, just because you give your AI helpers a name does not mean that we feel any more connected to them. I mean, I imagine this isn't the same as asking Jeeves, and if we decided to call ChatGPT Brian, would that stop people abusing it?
Write me an essay on sexism in the workplace.
Of course, sir. Defining the resolution...
Like a human.
Sexism in the
More
workplace...
words, more words.
Rhetorically speaking...
Point, evidence, explain, goddammit.
Succumbing to the facts...
You sound like AI.
I am AI.
This will never get past an AI tracker. Yeah? Hypothetically. Discombobulating the...
Yeah, probably not. The thing is, of course I like it when stuff just works. And not every monotonous task can be romanticised into an intentional or mindful experience, and nor should it be. But what's worrying is the lack of these moments compared to only a few decades ago. Rather than mindful, we're becoming mindless. And if we aren't careful, the robots are going to take over. I mean, who knows? But seriously, I just want people to be able to trust themselves to live their life with purpose and empowered enough to reject external control. Because a lot of the things that we've discussed are acts of control by big, fancy corporations. And most importantly, embrace the ability to do things or do nothing. Leisure time doesn't have to be screen-facing or as a result of an automated payment. And if you'd like to know exactly what I mean, then why not join me on Wednesday for a hands-on adventure in a place where tech can't touch and convenience is nowhere to be seen.